Well, hello, my kindergarten friends, and welcome back to Library Class at Home with Mr. S. It is Wednesday. We are making our way through our last and final week of school this year. It has been really quite exciting with the first half being in school and then this distance learning business. This week I am reading you my favorite stories. These are the books that I read sometimes, different times in the year, but because we're doing learning from home, I saved them all for the final week of school. This is Sylvester and the Magic Pebble. It was written by William Steig. Fun little fact, William Steig also wrote the book Shrek, which is one of my favorite books. So this is Sylvester and the Magic Pebble, the story of a donkey who finds a magic stone that can grant his wish. So here we go. Sylvester Duncan lived with his mother and father at Acorn Road in Oatsdale. One of his hobbies was collecting pebbles of unusual shape, size, and color. And here he is at his table with his pebble collection. That's pretty cool. One rainy Saturday during vacation, he found quite an extraordinary pebble. It was flaming red, shiny, and perfectly round like a marble. As he was studying this remarkable pebble, he began to shiver, probably from excitement, but probably from the cold rain on his back. "Oh, I wish it would stop raining," he said. And to his great surprise, the rain stopped. It didn't stop slowly like rain usually does. It stopped all at once. The drops vanished on their way down, the clouds disappeared, and everything was dry. The sun was shining as if it had never rained at all. In all his young life, Sylvester had never had a wish granted before, so it struck him that magic must be at work, and he guessed that the magic must be in the remarkable-looking red pebble, where indeed it was. To make a test, he put the pebble on the ground and said, "I wish it would rain again." Nothing happened. But when he said the same thing holding the pebble, the sky turned black. There was lightning and a clap of thunder. Then the rain came whooshing down. "What a lucky day this is," thought Sylvester. "From now on, I can have anything I want. My mother and father can have anything they want. My relatives and friends and everybody I know can have anything they want." So he wished the sunshine back into the sky and started for his way home, eager to amaze his mother and father with his magic pebble. He could hardly wait to see their faces. Maybe they wouldn't even believe him at first. As he was crossing Strawberry Hill, thinking of the many things he could wish for, he was startled to see a mean and hungry-looking lion staring right at him from behind some tall grass. He was frightened. If he hadn't been so frightened, he could have wished the lion to disappear, or he could have wished himself safe at home with his father and mother. He could have wished that the lion would turn into a butterfly, or a daisy, or a bug. He could have wished a great many things, but he panicked and he didn't think carefully. "I wish I was a rock," he said, and poof! Sylvester turned into a rock. The lion came bounding over, sniffed the rock 100 times, walked around and around it, and went away confused, perplexed, puzzled, and bewildered. "I saw a little donkey over here clear as day. Maybe I'm going crazy," he muttered. So, Sylvester's safe, I guess. I mean, the lion can't eat him when he's a rock, but he dropped the magic pebble right next to himself. He can't reach it, and we know that he has to be holding it for the magic to work. There was Sylvester, a rock on Strawberry Hill, with the magic pebble lying right beside him on the ground. He was unable to pick it up. "Oh, how I wish I were myself again," he thought. But nothing happened. He had to be touching the pebble to make the magic work, and there was nothing he could do about it. His thoughts began to race like mad. He was scared and worried. Being helpless, he felt hopeless. He imagined all the possibilities, and eventually he realized that his only chance of becoming himself again was for someone else to find the red pebble and wish that the rock next to it would be a donkey. Someone surely would find the red pebble. It was so bright and shiny, but what on earth would make them wish that a rock was a donkey? The chance was 1 in a billion at best. So Sylvester fell asleep. What else could he do? The night came out with many stars twinkling overhead. Meanwhile, back at home, Mr. and Mrs. Duncan paced the floor, frantic with worry. Sylvester had never come home later than dinner time before. Where could he be? They stayed up all night wondering what happened, expecting that Sylvester would surely turn up by morning. But he didn't, of course. Mrs. Duncan cried a lot, and Mr. Duncan did his best to soothe her. Both longed to have their dear son with them. "I will never yell at Sylvester again, no matter what he does," said Mrs. Duncan. At dawn, they went about and asked all of the neighbors. They talked to all the children, the puppies, the kittens, the horses, the piglets. No one had seen Sylvester since the day before yesterday. They went to the police, and the police could not find their child either. All the dogs in Oatsdale went searching for him. They sniffed behind every rock and tree and blade of grass, into every nook and gully of the neighborhood and beyond, but not a scent of him was found. They sniffed the big rock up on Strawberry Hill, but it smelled like a rock. It didn't smell like Sylvester. After a month of searching the same places over and over again, and asking the same animals over and over again, Mr. and Mrs. Duncan no longer knew what to do. They guessed that something dreadful must have happened, and they would probably never see their son again, though this whole time he was less than a mile away. They tried their best to be happy, to go about their usual ways, but their usual ways included Sylvester, and they were always reminded of him. They were miserable. Life had no meaning for them anymore. Oh, do you feel bad for Mr. and Mrs. Duncan? I do. That must be very sad. Night followed day, and day followed night, over and over again. Sylvester on the hill woke up less and less often. When he was awake, he was only hopeless and unhappy. He felt he would be a rock forever, and he tried to get used to it. He fell into an endless sleep. The days grew colder. Fall came with the leaves changing color. Then the leaves fell, and the grass bent to the ground. Then it was winter. The winds blew this way and that. It snowed. Mostly the animals stayed indoors. One day a wolf sat on the rock that was Sylvester and howled and howled and howled. Oh boy. Then the snows melted, the earth warmed up in the spring, the sun came out and things started to grow. Leaves were on the trees again and flowers bloomed in the sunshine. One day in May, Mr. Duncan insisted that his wife go with him on a picnic. "Let's try to cheer up," he said. "Let us live again and be happy, even though Sylvester, our angel, is no longer with us." They went up to Strawberry Hill. Mrs. Duncan sat down on the rock. The warmth of his own mother sitting on him woke Sylvester from his deep winter sleep. How he wanted to shout, "Mother, Father, it's me, Sylvester, I'm right here!" But he couldn't talk. He had no voice. After all, he was a rock. Mr. Duncan walked aimlessly about while Mrs. Duncan set out the picnic food on the rock. They were having alfalfa sandwiches, pickled oats, and sassafras salad. Suddenly, Mr. Duncan saw the red pebble. "What a fantastic pebble!" he said. Oh, Sylvester would have loved it for his collection. He put the pebble up on the rock. Oh my goodness, does that mean that Sylvester's now touching the pebble? I think it does. They sat down to eat. Sylvester was now as wide awake as a donkey that was a rock could possibly be. Mrs. Duncan felt some mysterious excitement. "You know, Father," she said suddenly, "I have the strangest feeling that our dear Sylvester is still alive and not very far away at all." I am, Sylvester wanted to shout, but he couldn't. If only he realized the pebble resting on his back was the Magic Pebble. "Oh, how I wish he were here with us on this lovely May day," said Mrs. Duncan. Mr. Duncan looked sadly at the ground. Mr. and Mrs. Duncan looked at each other with great sorrow. "Oh, I wish I was myself again. I wish I was my real self again," thought Sylvester. And poof, in less than an instant, he was. Hooray! And there he is with all the picnic food on top of him. Look at how happy his parents are. You can imagine the scene that followed, the embraces, the kisses, the questions, the answers, the loving looks, and the fond exclamations. When they had eventually calmed down a bit and had gotten home, Mr. Duncan put the magic pebble in an iron safe. Someday they might want to use it. But really, for now, what more could they wish for? They had all that they could have ever wanted. And that, boys and girls, is the end. If you had a magic pebble, what would you wish for? I could think of a lot of things that I would wish for, but I'd like to know what you would wish for. Leave me an answer on my Google Classroom page. Tell me what you would wish for. And also, if you have a question you want me to answer on Monday, remember, I'm going to be answering your questions on Monday. So think of something good. You can ask me about how I pick the books or how I make these videos or what my kitchen looks like. I don't know. You can ask me anything, and I will look through these questions and pick some good ones to read on Monday. In the meantime, thank you for listening. Check back tomorrow for another one of my favorite stories. And remember to stay safe, keep your hands washed, and I will see you guys tomorrow.